And to respond, the Canadian government put forward a plan designed to strengthen the economy and expand trading partnerships with reliable international partners. Leadership is often revealed in a single moment, a quiet instant that tests resolve, judgment, and character. For some, those moments are fleeting. For others, they define a lifetime. Mark Carney encountered one such moment in the heart of global power. Seated across from the world's most influential figure, he faced a challenge that extended beyond political posturing or financial maneuvering. It was a test of principle, diplomacy, and the protection of a nation's sovereignty. At that critical juncture, there were opposing visions. One sought to assert dominance, to pressure and destabilize. The other required clarity, restraint, and a pragmatic assessment of what was necessary to safeguard an economy, a society, and a national identity. Words exchanged in that room carried consequences far beyond the walls in which they were spoken. Among them were a declaration of national integrity, the kind of statement that resonates not only in political corridors, but across entire populations. Some things are simply not for sale. That commitment, quietly yet firmly expressed, sent ripples through the capitals of the world, signaling that Canada's economic independence would not be compromised. The story of Mark Carney is a story of preparation, of discipline, and of the long arc that leads a person from early promise to global leadership. Born in the remote northern reaches of Canada, his earliest experiences shaped both character and ambition. A small hospital in a northern town welcomed his arrival into a family guided by education, resilience, and hard work. His father, a school principal, valued knowledge and community. His mother, returning to university later in life, embodied perseverance and the pursuit of personal growth. Carney grew up in an environment where opportunity was earned through effort rather than inherited through privilege. When the family moved to the prairies, to a province defined by its wide skies and challenging winters, Carney embraced both the rigor of Canadian winters and the discipline of sports. Hockey, for him, was more than a game. It was an early lesson in responsibility, teamwork, and facing high-stakes challenges with composure. These experiences became foundational as he navigated academic opportunities that would lead him to some of the most competitive institutions in the world. At Harvard University, he combined rigorous scholarship with athletic discipline, serving as a backup goalie for the varsity ice hockey team. That role, often underappreciated, required vigilance, patience, and readiness at a moment's notice, skills that would later define his career as an economist and public servant. Graduating with distinction, Carney pursued advanced studies abroad, refining his understanding of economics not simply as abstract theory, but as a tool that shapes societies and governments. He studied under the guidance of leading thinkers who emphasized that markets are not only numbers on a page, but instruments of policy, influence, and global interaction. From these early academic experiences, he developed a nuanced understanding of the interconnectedness of financial systems and the human realities they underpin. Carney's professional career began in the world of global finance. Over more than a decade, he worked across continents, experiencing firsthand the challenges and opportunities of markets in flux. From Tokyo to London, from New York to Toronto, he was immersed in some of the most consequential moments in modern financial history. He observed how nations respond to crisis, how decisions in boardrooms ripple through economies, and how leadership is tested when stability is threatened. Unlike many who pursue wealth and status, Carney ultimately chose public service, recognizing that expertise carried a responsibility beyond personal advancement. As a leader in central banking, he confronted challenges that would define the course of his career. Global financial crises, systemic risks, and economic uncertainty became arenas in which his judgment and steadiness were tested. Policies implemented under his guidance were grounded in careful analysis and foresight, aiming not only to stabilize markets, but to protect livelihoods and maintain public confidence. By observing patterns, anticipating risks, and committing to transparency, he guided institutions through periods of extraordinary complexity. Canada's economic resilience during worldwide financial instability can be traced in large part to proactive, evidence-based policy decisions. Interest rate adjustments, conditional commitments to maintain stability, and clear communication with businesses and citizens created confidence when uncertainty was highest. Carney's approach highlighted the importance of decisive leadership, tempered by prudence and an understanding of both domestic and international factors. Recognition followed naturally, reflecting not just technical skill, but credibility and earned trust across diverse audiences. His reputation extended beyond Canadian borders. When offered the leadership of one of the oldest central banks in the world, he accepted, navigating challenges in a foreign country with historical and political significance. Leading during periods of political transition, economic turbulence, and unforeseen global events, he demonstrated adaptability, foresight, and the ability to balance multiple priorities. His tenure reinforced the principle that leadership requires both expertise and a capacity for listening, collaboration, and careful judgment. Returning to Canada at a time of political transition, Carney brought a wealth of experience to a nation facing new pressures on trade, governance, and economic strategy. Political change within the country coincided with shifts in global power dynamics, prompting the need for leadership that could navigate complex relationships with international partners. The political and economic landscape required a leader who understood global systems, could assess risk, and could communicate effectively with domestic and international stakeholders alike. As he assumed the role of Prime Minister, Carney's approach reflected his prior experiences, methodical, informed, and principled. He engaged with Parliament and citizens, emphasizing transparency and accountability while fostering confidence in Canada's strategic direction. His policies focused on diversification, strengthening internal capacities, and establishing relationships that were equitable and mutually beneficial. These decisions were not about confrontation for its own sake, but about creating conditions for long-term stability and prosperity. On the international stage, Carney's approach balanced diplomacy with firmness. In discussions with global leaders, he advocated for constructive engagement while remaining unwavering on matters of national interest. He emphasized that sovereignty and strategic autonomy are central to national well-being, reinforcing that trade, finance, and policy must serve citizens first. His communication combined clarity with measured authority, projecting confidence without aggression. Through speeches, forums, and direct engagement, Carney articulated a vision of a Canada that is proactive, resilient, and strategically engaged with the world. He highlighted the importance of energy independence, investment in technology and critical resources, and participation in multilateral partnerships. Canada's actions reflected a belief that nations thrive not through passivity or dependence, but through planning, foresight, and measured action. Domestically, the Prime Minister addressed citizens with empathy and candor, acknowledging the challenges inherent in economic transitions and global uncertainty. He emphasized that policies were designed to maintain stability, foster innovation, and ensure that the benefits of growth were broadly shared. Public engagement was integral to his leadership, reinforcing trust and fostering a sense of shared purpose among Canadians. Throughout his tenure, Carney's decisions were informed by a combination of historical perspective, rigorous analysis, and practical experience. He recognized the importance of both immediate responses and long-term strategies, balancing crisis management with proactive planning. Policies were carefully considered, aiming to minimize unintended consequences while maximizing resilience. In every aspect of governance, he demonstrated the principle that leadership is about action, accountability, and the protection of core values. The narrative of Mark Carney's rise is also a story of national identity. It reflects the evolution of a country that values resilience, innovation, and principled engagement with the world. By navigating complex economic, political, and international pressures, he demonstrated that leadership grounded in expertise, integrity, and commitment to public service can have transformative effects. Canadians were reminded that sovereignty is not merely symbolic. It is maintained through careful decision-making, steadfastness, and the willingness to act in the nation's best interest. His tenure also emphasized that economic and political leadership are inseparable from the broader social and cultural context. Decisions in trade, investment, and policy reverberate through communities, affect employment and livelihoods, and shape the national experience. Carney's approach consistently accounted for these interconnections, reflecting a holistic understanding of governance that extends beyond narrow calculations or transient advantages. In addition to domestic policy, Carney engaged with international institutions, private sector partners, and global organizations to ensure Canada's interests were represented in diverse forums. These efforts required collaboration, negotiation, and the capacity to anticipate global trends. By positioning Canada as a reliable, capable, and strategically minded partner, he strengthened the country's influence and fostered networks of cooperation and trust. Leadership is tested not only in moments of calm, but in moments of pressure. Carney faced multiple crises, from trade tensions to global economic uncertainty, and each required judgment that balanced national priorities with international realities. The effectiveness of his leadership was reflected not only in policy outcomes, but in the confidence of Canadians and the respect of global partners. Actions taken were guided by evidence, principle, and a long-term perspective. The overarching theme of Carney's story is the alignment of preparation, expertise, and opportunity. Each stage of his career, academic, professional, and political, contributed to the ability to navigate challenges effectively. His journey illustrates how experience across multiple domains can inform leadership, allowing for decisions that are both prudent and impactful. It underscores the importance of cultivating knowledge, resilience, and judgment over time. Carney's narrative also highlights the significance of communication in leadership. His speeches, statements, and public engagements were deliberate, grounded in analysis, and focused on conveying principles clearly. By combining authority with accessibility, he strengthened public understanding and support. Canadians were able to see the rationale behind decisions and the values guiding policy, fostering both trust and engagement. Equally important was his commitment to inclusivity and fairness. Policies were crafted to consider the needs of diverse populations, ensuring that economic growth, security, and innovation were accompanied by social responsibility. Leadership in this context was about balancing competing interests, making difficult choices transparently, and maintaining focus on long-term national welfare. Mark Carney's career demonstrates that leadership in the modern era requires adaptability, knowledge, and a readiness to act decisively while remaining anchored in principle. Whether facing financial crises, geopolitical tensions, or domestic challenges, his approach combined foresight with practical action. The story reinforces that preparation, experience, and ethical clarity are as essential as political skill. Through careful strategy, principled engagement, and transparent governance, Carney navigated the pressures of office with consistency and effectiveness. Canada's economy, international standing, and domestic confidence benefited from decisions informed by expertise, humility, and foresight. His tenure underscores that leadership is less about personal acclaim than about the capacity to anticipate challenges, mobilize resources, and protect the collective interest. The narrative also demonstrates the power of example. By modeling calm, informed, and principled decision-making, Carney set a standard for political, economic, and civic leadership. Citizens, colleagues, and international partners observed a model of governance grounded in analysis, integrity, and foresight. The impact of such leadership extends far beyond individual policies. It shapes institutional norms, public expectations, and international perceptions. In every domain, from financial regulation to international diplomacy, Carney's influence reflected a deep understanding of interconnected systems. He approached problems methodically, considered multiple perspectives, and communicated solutions effectively. This multidimensional approach ensured that decisions were robust, defensible, and conducive to long-term stability. In conclusion, the story of Mark Carney exemplifies the interplay of preparation, expertise, and principled action in leadership. It is a narrative of a Canadian who rose from modest beginnings to influence not only national policy, but global economic trends. His career demonstrates the value of resilience, the importance of knowledge, and the enduring impact of decisions made with foresight and integrity. Above all, it is a story of a nation's confidence being defended, nurtured, and strengthened through steady, informed, and principled leadership. For Canadians and observers worldwide, this narrative offers lessons in leadership, strategic thinking, and the enduring importance of sovereignty. It emphasizes that nations, like individuals, thrive when guided by preparation, expertise, and a commitment to core values. It is a testament to the ways in which thoughtful, principled action can shape history, strengthen communities, and inspire confidence in uncertain times.